we have a good look at our solar system and how it works, for instance, the moon goes around the Earth in turn is rotating and orbiting the sun. So it takes 365 days to go around the sun. Now our sun in turn is orbiting Sirius. Sirius being the brightest star in the sky and in the sector of Cancer, right near Gemini. It is in a binary with our star. Sirius and our sun have been going away from each other for the last couple of thousand years, and now they've turned the corner, so they're heading towards one. As we reach the outer limits of that orbit, that elliptical orbit with our sun and Sirius, this is where the Iron Age is. The Golden Age is when they are close to each other, and then as they separate, they go through the Silver and the Bronze to the Iron Age. Well, that affects the consciousness of mankind, because we have 100% consciousness when the two stars are close to each other. The consciousness falls to 75%, 50%, and 25%. We've not enjoyed full consciousness for a long time, and many of the gifts and abilities and powers that we once had.
If you look at Plato, Plato is the earliest surviving source for the specific story of Atlantis, for the name of a civilization that was called Atlantis. There are many, many other traditions and stories about lost civilizations that were destroyed in a global flood. But if we take the specifics of Atlantis, the earliest documentary record we have was handed down to us by Plato. And Plato actually spoke of two things. Yes, he spoke of a continent-sized landmass, but he also spoke of a great empire that was spread out around the world. And that's the view of Atlantis that I take, that we were looking at a maritime, seagoing civilization, which was in many respects highly advanced, which had charted and mapped the entire world, and which had settled or at least created outposts on coastlines all around the world. And I would suggest very strongly that one of those outposts would have been off ancient Egypt. Very interesting actually, because if you look at the Plato story, which is reported in his Timaeus and his Critias dialogues, you will find that he tells us a number of things. Firstly, that he got the information about Atlantis from a relative of his, an elder relative, Solon, the Greek lawmaker, and that Solon had visited Egypt and had talked with priests at a temple that no longer exists at Sais in the Delta. And those priests had told him the story of Atlantis, how 9,000 years before the time of Solon, there had been a great civilization which had been destroyed in a single terrible day and night, a cataclysmic flood accompanied by earthquakes. So complete had the destruction been that mankind had been forced to begin again like children with no memory of what went before. So first of all, there is this Egyptian connection in the passing down of the story of Atlantis. Secondly, the date is very interesting. 9,000 years before the time of Solon is approximately 9,600, 9,500 BC, which means 11,500 years ago. And that plugs us in. If Plato made the story up, as many of his critics have claimed, then it's astonishing that he chose that date, because modern science, geological science, tells us that that date was one of the times of peak flooding and cataclysmic meltdown of the great ice caps during the last ice age, and a time of very rapid sea level rise. So Plato picked a very interesting date and time.
Because it seems like the last major event would have been at the end of the last ice age, which would have been almost at the peak of the golden age.
Yes, there is a very high correlation between the periodicity of the ice ages and the precession periodicity. I mean, it's almost perfect. It's roughly 22 to 26,000 years. We came up with the solar system had to be moving 430 kilometers a second, because that's how long it would take on average to get around the center of mass with a star like Sirius. I didn't ever expect anything to come of that, because that's above current estimates, although, current estimates are always relative to what? Because everything's moving out there, right?
Right.
And so he came up with this sort of novel idea. Let's measure the speed of the solar system relative to the CMB, the cosmic microwave background. And sure enough, when he measures relative to that, he came up with exactly 430 kilometers a second. So.
You think it'll only take 10 or 20 years before this theory gains more momentum?
Oh yeah, and it's because these Spanish astronomers that just came out, they're looking for massive stuff out there, and other people are realizing these dwarf planets can't be in the position they are without something big affecting it. So there's really some serious people starting to look at what's going on with our solar system.
Astronomers and physicists and astrophysicists and meteorologists all talking about now that we got a new sun, and this new sun is going to take us into the Milky Way galaxy. Well, they lied to me then. Either we were already in it, on the fringes of something else that didn't know the name of it, or now they're discovering that we are now going into the thing they said we were on before. Either way, it shows the backwardness of the teaching system, the backwardness of astronomers, and of the lies better that they tell us. They might be for it, but they make us backward because we're trained. They don't educate us, they train us. I tell people again, you don't educate a person that you're going to dominate, because that person, about second and third generation, will dominate you.